This guy, Brian Bates, or whatever his name is, with a channel that goes by the name videovigilanteokc, is a piece of shit. Guys like this are destroying the world. For thousands of years, people have enjoyed one basic tenet of privacy, which is you have privacy so long as human eyes are not on you. When ACLU challenged the Supreme Court regarding surveillance cameras, the Supreme Court was a piece of shit about it. Basically, they said that in open public spaces, you have no right against being protected from surveillance, which is okay by me. But what is not okay is having the police use that footage as evidence. Video recordings should only serve as educational or entertainment material. You can watch a burglar break into the house You can watch a burglar break into the house for entertainment or to learn what such an act looks like, but that video should not be used as evidence. Why is there an overwhelming number of idiots who think they're so perfect that if they were observed by cameras 24/7, there's nothing those cameras will see that won't ever get them in trouble? How can they be so confident of themselves? So they believe they will always remain level-headed, no matter what the situation? They believe they will never be poor enough to warrant actions that may be illegal. They will never be angry enough to do something illegal on an impulse they can't control. So they believe they're born with brains that are so perfectly wired from birth and by the environment that shaped them when they were growing up, that they will never slip up and do anything in rage. So they're perfectly fine if a random camera drone or a security camera or a cell phone is recording them. And they believe their offspring will also be so perfectly developed they won't be harmed by a future where surveillance is ever increasing. So they say, yeah, go ahead, sure, let's have security cameras on every building and street corner and in every car and aircraft that flies through the sky, because we're so perfect, we never do anything that we wouldn't want police to see. What kind of fucking nut logic is that? These people have their heads so far up their asses, they do not believe they can be burned by their own fire or can cut themselves with their own sword when they flail it around. This video vigilante guy is a piece of shit. He used a camera drone to spy on an old guy fucking a hooker in his truck in some isolated junkyard where there was no one except this Brian Bates guy who purposely followed them there. So then both of those people went to jail because of video camera evidence from the drone. This wouldn't have happened in the 1980s, before there were drones and video cameras. Video cameras that weighed less than 20 pounds and cost less than $700. For thousands of years, this is how rational people viewed privacy. If I'm walking down a street and the street is empty, I have privacy on that street. If I see a pedestrian coming, then I lost privacy. But once the pedestrian passes by, I regain privacy again. It made absolute logical sense. Privacy was where you could find it, in the milling throng of people, or wherever you could find it. If you want to sit alone somewhere, you simply found a spot where there are no people, and you can sit alone there and do whatever you want, so long as no other people are near or they can't see you. But now video cameras have completely ruined this. Cameras that half the time you might not see are there, that are always watching. Why is it that because some entrepreneur invented these devices, we're supposed to lose this most ancient of freedoms to which we are all used? This guy with the hooker drove specifically to a location where there were no other people. That's seeking out privacy. That's what normal, rational people do. You want privacy to go where there are no people. You want privacy, you go to where there are no people. Security cameras and drones should not count as people. They are objects. Therefore, you should be able to do whatever you want in front of them, since a camera can't be offended by you having sex. How are you supposed to spot cameras when they could be hidden? How are you supposed to anticipate that some piece of shit is going to fly a drone from the sky down on you? So now, because people can just randomly throw around surveillance devices like landmines, we're all supposed to live in terror and paranoia, where we have no idea if we're being watched or not. So, you had good faith belief you weren't being watched, but it turns out you were, and now, because you followed a rational tenet of if there are no people around, then I'm not being seen, and you're getting punished for it all the same. And people think they're so perfect, it doesn't trouble them at all. Let's just throw away everything we rationally thought constitutes privacy and just fill ourselves with uncertainty and paranoia that we're constantly being watched. And more people subscribe to this video vigilante OKC piece of shit instead of me. A guy who is basically reinforcing the system that if you're not perfect, you're gonna be eliminated and disposed of into the prison system. I am the only one on YouTube, or probably all of internet, who is suggesting that we need to eliminate use of digital technology as evidence, so we go back to the 1980s style of privacy. If a human being didn't see it live with their eyeballs, then it wasn't seen. A camera doesn't count. Instead of appreciating me for calling out to end this security camera cancer that's costing more and more people jobs and freedom, I get treated like shit, while this asshole, who has destroyed the basic tenets of privacy we have enjoyed since the start of the human species up until pretty much the mid-2000s, gets more subscribers and more money than me. My ideas are all about saving humanity from oppression, of keeping the freedom people enjoyed in the past before the proliferation of cameras, of keeping the freedom where you may not be perfect, you may not be politically correct or always in control of yourself, but yet you can still succeed and save yourself by talking your way out of problems because there was no video to show the truth. I get treated like shit for wanting to go back to a time when second chances abound and mistakes were easier to hide because video evidence didn't exist. Instead, people spit on me for it while yearning for some weird 1984/Minority Report dystopia. You want to watch a guy fucking a hooker recorded by a drone, go ahead and watch for amusement. But it should be illegal to be used as evidence. It should go back to hearsay, where Brian Bates has to walk up to the truck, look inside with his eyeballs, then phone a police officer and recite to the police officer verbally what he saw, while the police officer jots it down with a pen in a notebook. I don't know how people aren't getting sick and tired of this and scared of what the future holds. How is that people who are old enough to have lived in the past without cell phone cameras are not upset that things have changed? You can't ban the technology, but you can ban it from being exploited in a certain way. Mainly exploited as evidence creation for police, because that has the biggest negative impact on people. It would be an easy law to obey because only the police would have to obey it. No different than how they already obey a law that forbids them to conduct a search without a warrant. People can still videotape anything they want without restriction. It's just it can't be admitted as evidence anymore, and it has to go back to verbal witness statements. I get called an arrogant piece of shit when a truly arrogant piece of shit like Brian Bates receives nothing but praise. He's such a self-important fucker. He puts all this intense music in his videos, like he's some fucking secret agent out on a mission to bust people for victimless crimes, for having sex, even though they took rational steps to find an isolated place without people to do it. I bet he wouldn't go around videotaping black gangs in Chicago shooting at each other because he's a pussy bitch. He would not go after anybody who fights back, and if someone fought back, he'd use his camera like a bitch to make evidence of it. So he'd purposely work to piss someone off, then record it for the cops after he got the right reaction. What a fucking piece of shit worm this guy is. People with real trouble in their lives have to fucking contend with security cameras and drone cameras and cell phone cameras laid out like landmines for them, so their lives can be further ruined in a court of law when that stuff is used as evidence.